All right, everybody. So this screencast is meant to help you guys be able to do a bar graph on paper. And we're going to have all the requirements for proficiency. Three-part title, X and Y axis labels, appropriate scales or number lines, and properly represented data, and possibly a key or a legend. So without further ado, let's look at some paper. Okay, so I'm going to make this very simple. There won't be any averaging. This is going to be our data, and it would make a bar graph because we've got words and numbers. Here's our X, which is horizontal independent x-axis. Here's our Y, and with this title, it's going to be three-part habitat on the leaf width, which is the dependent, and that little bit extra is ivy, saying what type of leaf we're actually working with. So if I go in the order of the proficiency, the first thing I'm going to do is put the title on so I don't forget it later. All right, so again, we've got our three-part title, the independent, the dependent, and a little bit extra. The next thing I want to do is put the X and Y axis labels on. So again, this is our X, the right side is our Y. So I'm going to take habitat type, and I'm going to put it down here on the X. Again, I'm going to go a little bit lower than right next to the bars because I'm going to have labels here for each bar. So I'll write habitat type a little bit lower. And on my y-axis, I'm going to put average width of leaf along with the units I'm measuring that in. So I take my graph, I turn it sideways. I'm going to put it on my y-axis, leaving some room for my scale. And I'm putting the units, the tags that go behind the numbers, in parentheses after my label. Okay, so I've got three parts of the proficiency. I've got the overall graph title, I've got my x-axis label, and my y-axis label. The next part is putting in the proper scales. So on the bottom, because it's words, I don't need to worry about that. All I'm going to put is sunny and shady. And I'm just spreading them out, and then we'll make bars going up off of those two words. Okay, so now the next part is I need to figure out what kind of a scale I'm going to use for these numbers. And I could probably get away with not breaking it, but I want to show you how to make these scales if I do break it. So the first thing I need to do is make sure I go above the highest and below the lowest. So if I round these, I could go to like 5.5 and 7.5. So if I go 5.5 and 7.5, I need to first find my range. So 7.5 minus 5.5 equals 2. I'm sure a lot of you guys could do that in your head. But now that I have the range, I'm going to divide the range by the number of boxes that exist on this particular graph paper. So if you get different graph paper, you actually do need to count up the boxes to know how many boxes there are. So as I count this up, counted up earlier, there are 22 boxes. So I'm going to take the range divided by the number of boxes. You're like, wow, that's a super tiny number. And it is, but we have a really small range. And if we're going to break it, we're not going to be, we're not going to have this huge gap between the numbers. And it's really important that you guys are able to read numbers that are really small, but also like work with them. So if this is my number, I'm not going to make every line go up by 0.09. I'm going to round this up and work from there. I'm going to put 0 at my corner, but then I'm going to break the graph, and I'm going to go up by 0.1 or 1/10. And initially, I was like, okay, we could start at 5.5. I'm breaking it. I'm going to, for the sake of this, start at 5.6. It's still below our lowest, and it'll still spread the data real nice along our graph. But I'm just going to put my first one at 5.6 right here. And it's important when I put this on here that I understand that this number is going with a line and not a space. So that 5.6 goes there, and I'm not going to write 5.7 because I'm going up by 0.1 or 1/10, right? So that's 5 and 6/10. I'm not going to write 5 and 7/10, 5 and 8/10. I'm going to skip some numbers and skip some boxes. So I'm going to go up, and on this line, if everyone is 0.1, this would be 5.8, because this one would be 5.7. Okay, so I just keep on going up. This would be 5.9, but I'm going to skip it. I'm going to put 6. And then I'm going to go 6 and 2/10. 6 and 4/10. 6.6. 6.8. 7. 7.2. 7.4. And the top would be 7.6. So again, it worked out. I went from below my lowest to above my highest, below my lowest to above my highest. They are evenly spaced on a number line. And so now I have my 2 labels for my bar here, and I have my number line. The next thing I need to do is actually graph it. So Sunny, I go over to Sunny, and I go up to 5.8. So whether you make it 1 bar wide or 2 bars wide, it doesn't really matter. But I'm going to 5.8, so I find 5.8. I line it up with where my bar is going to be. I put a line there. I extend it down again. On the line graph thing, I showed you guys how to make a straight edge to make it nice and straight. That would probably be a better idea. But now I have my bar, and I don't need to like take 10 minutes shading this in. It's fine like this, but if you want to put lines on it, make it stand out from the background a little bit, that would be fine. So there's Sunny at 5.8. Now I'm going to go Shady at 7.4. So I go over to Shady. I'm going to use the same format where it's 2 bars wide, and 7.4 is way up here. So I follow that over, make it sure it lines up with my Shady here, and it would be right here. I follow those lines down. I use and again, like if I want to make a straight edge here, it's real simple. All I do is take the paper, crease it once over, and now that's going to be a nice straight line. I don't need to take out my ruler. It's a nice straight line that I can just follow on down. You see how much nicer this side looks than that? Okay, and that took almost no time to do. And then I'll put my little lines on here. And now I can ask myself, do I need some type of a key here? And if I look at this, okay, so I've got Sunny and I've got Shady. What would I put in a key? Would I put Sunny and Shady in a key? That wouldn't make much sense. Even if I like change the way this is drawn, I've already got Sunny and Shady here. So in this case, I do not need a key or a legend. So I'm going to just leave it the way it is. So at this point, let's go back and double check our 6 criteria for proficiency. So if I'm going to jump back and forth with the PowerPoint, the first thing I need here is a 3-part title. So let's see, do I have a 3-part title? Yes, I do. Okay. Do I have an x-axis label? I have an x-axis label. Do I have a y-axis label, possibly with units? I have a y-axis label with my units. Do I have appropriate scales or number line? And I do. Do I have properly represented data? Yep, 5.8, 7.4. I made my bars the right size. And do I need a key or legend? I said I don't, so I have all of the required proficiency, and this is a proficient bar graph based off of this data table. So that's how we're going to make a bar graph on paper. I hope that was helpful, and stay tuned for the next video.